Hi, sir. Welcome to the L Cube Show.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the show, sir. I'm really glad you're on the show. Viewers, we have Alok Tripathi, sir. Sir, can you please tell me about yourself briefly, sir? Your current position. I know you are a Director General for excavations regarding Dwaraka. What is your current designations and position, sir?
I'm an archaeologist basically, and
Yes.
my specialization is in underwater archaeology.
Okay.
At present, I'm a professor in Assam University. Presently, I'm working in Archaeological Survey of India as Additional Director General Archaeology.
Okay. Additional Director General Archaeology. Wow. Will there be a lot of pressure, sir?
Yeah, we have to see all the archaeological activities in the country.
Okay. So let's get into Dwaraka, sir. You were leading the Dwaraka team in 2007, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Okay, sir. So why Dwaraka? Was it your fascination? Because for us, let me tell you about us first. As kids growing up, is there anything mysterious in India? It was Dwaraka. It was like the Atlantis. So why Dwaraka, sir? And why did you believe that that is the right place for the archaeology, particularly underwater archaeology?
Let us first understand the importance of Dwaraka.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in India, we have got a long literary tradition where we have a lot of information in ancient texts.
Okay.
Two great epics of India, Ramayana and Mahabharata, mention a lot of information about the past. And in Mahabharata, there are a number of places which have been mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And many of them are still known by their present name.
Yes.
But of all these, Dwarika has a very distinct position, and archaeologically it becomes very important.
Okay.
There have been a long debate that whether whatever is written in ancient literature, whether it is a historical or it's a mythology.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be proved or it can be dated only if we find archaeological remains from these places and can date them.
Okay.
A number of places which are mentioned in Ramayana as well as in Mahabharata have been excavated.
So, sir, I have this question. When you said Ramayana and also Mahabharata, Ramayana, are you talking about Ram Setu particularly, which are excavated?
No. There are a number of places, many other places.
Other places. Okay.
So there was a project. There was a project which was headed by Professor B.B. Lal, a famous archaeologist of India. He has worked on a number of sites which are mentioned in ancient literature. Among all these, Dwarika has a very important place because this is the only place or the city which was established by Krishna.
Okay.
And the city was destroyed soon after his death.
Okay.
It is the only place which is contemporary to Krishna. So if this place is identified and if we find archaeological remains from this place, we will be able to date the events which are mentioned in Mahabharata.
Okay.
So therefore, this get a lot of importance, though all other places are equally important, but it may directly help in dating the events of Mahabharata. And therefore, Dwarika becomes a very special place for archaeologists to study.
Okay, so are you saying that it is easier because we have already mentioned in the Mahabharata or Srimad Bhagavatam? Is it easier?
It's not easier. All other places are also mentioned in this ancient literature. But those places were surviving before Mahabharata and they continue to survive after Mahabharata.
Okay.
So even if you work on those places, it will be very difficult to say that which particular period belongs to Mahabharata.
Okay, got it.
But in case of Dwarika, it was established during that period and it was submerged soon after that or destroyed after that. So it existed for a very short period.
Okay.
So whatever you find at Dwarika, that would be very helpful in dating the period or the events which are mentioned in ancient literature.
Okay.
So therefore, it becomes more important.
Okay. So did it start to prove that, or did it start because we found some artifacts regarding that?
The history of archaeological or historical studies related to Dwarika is more than a century old. First time in 1904, when Parjitar was translating Skanda Puran, there first time he identified that the Dwarika mentioned in the literature is the one which is located in Gujarat.
Okay, so it's mentioned with the location as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it is mentioned in Mahabharat, it is mentioned in other Puran, it is also mentioned in Jatak and later literature also.
With exact location, sir. With
it gives a location nearby. It is close to Revatak Hill or it is close to the sea. They mention about its location.
Some coordinates.
And the direction. Yeah.
Okay.
So after that, in 1925, A.S. Altekar, while working on ancient cities of Saurashtra, he mentioned about this city. In 1943 and 45, A.D. Pusalkar wrote extensively about Dwarika. And since then, it was established that Dwarika, located in Gujarat, is the one which is mentioned in Mahabharata.
Okay,
so
where
they were all
lived.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was the place which is mentioned in ancient literature. But these all were based on the literature or historical studies.
Right.
So for the first time in 1960s, archaeologists started excavation at the site, and Deccan College Pune and the State Department of Archaeology Gujarat State, they carried out first excavation on the mount, and there they found archaeological remains.
When you said mount, is it Bed Dwaraka?
It is Dwarika itself.
On actual Dwarika itself.
Yeah, the Dwarika city is present city is located on an ancient mound. It's a huge ancient deposit over which the present city is
built.
Located.
Okay.
Built.
Okay.
So after some time in 1979, Dr. S.R. Rao has carried out another excavation very close to the temple. There is a very famous ancient temple of Dwarikadhish.
Yes.
And that is the highest point on the mount. Yes. Where you have the minimum deposit.
Yes.
So close to it, these excavations were carried out. And then I was fortunate to have an opportunity to excavate and explore that area. And after that excavation, then underwater archaeological investigations started in 1980s.
Okay. According to why underwater archaeology started?
Because the literature mentioned that the city was submerged. It got submerged. So it's lying submerged in the sea. And literature also gives its location that the city was situated on the bank of on the shore where the river Gomti meets the sea. Yes. And there is a rivulet known as Gomati, which meets the sea here. Yes. And the location matches with what is written in ancient literature. Okay. So based on that, underwater investigations started there by the National Institute of Oceanography. And from 1988, I participated in those investigations in this area. And finally, 2005 to 2007, I was the director of the investigations which were carried out at the site.
Okay. So what about these Palitana plates, sir?
Palitana plate mentions Dwarika. So it indicates that it was located in this region. So it is one of the evidence suggesting that Dwarika was located in Gujarat.
So where are these Palitana plates? Where are they found?
They were found at Palitana. That's why they are called Palitana plate. Generally, the inscriptions or copper plates are named where they are found.
Right.
The plates.
So what is inscribed on it?
It's talk about a king and also mention about the king of Dwarika. How greatness about the king.
Okay. And so, the time period also on it?
It is, but it is not, see, the Palitana plate is not about Dwarika. It is about the king, and there he refers about Dwarika city.
Okay, so we have a reference to Dwaraka city in Palitana plate. Okay,
yes.
So the underwater archaeology has started. So you were leading the team, and
initially I was participating, and then I was directing the excavation.
What do you mean by participating? You were actually diving?
I was diving, yeah. I started I had my first dive at Dwarika in 1988 when I joined underwater.
That was your first ever dive in your life.
Yes.
And it was in Dwaraka.
That was in Dwaraka.
Wow.
So, because I joined the Archaeological Survey of India in 1987, and then they were looking for young archaeologists who are interested in underwater archaeology. I was the first to get selected for underwater archaeology. I had a diving training at Dwaraka, and I had my first dive at Dwaraka.
Sir, can you please explain your first dive? That first moment when you went into the water, and how deep was it? I'm sure you didn't find anything in your first dive, but what was your first experience and how deep did you go?
That was a very, of course, I remember that because I always had this in my mind that whenever I have a chance to dive, I'll go and go down and touch the bottom.
Okay.
Though my instructor had instructed me to go a few meters below the water and stay there because that was my first dive. So we had training part, theoretical and all, snorkeling, etc. When I was asked first time to dive, I was instructed to stay below the water and then to get acclimatized. But I was so desperate that I was trying my best to go down and touch the bottom. It was not very deep. It was around 5 meters in depth, very close to shore. And I made it. He was pulling me up and I was trying to go down. And finally, I touched the bottom and I came. And of course, then my instructor was very angry because I had to follow his instructions.
Okay.
But I was desperate to go down and see the world underwater.
Okay.
So that is a memorable moment.
Was it dark, sir? Was it dark? 5 meters itself, was it dark?
No, it isn't. Water is quite clear generally because in Dwaraka we have sandy beaches, so it was not very dark. And during daytime, the light is quite bright, so it was very good.
And I heard something like you have to dive, particularly underwater archaeology, only between the months of November to April?
No, nothing.
Sorry, November to February.
No, nothing like. In Dwaraka, of course, that's a good season. Because during summer the sea is very rough, so you can't even navigate in that area or dive. But in other parts of the country, it depends in which area you are diving.
Okay.
For example, in the Bay of Bengal, when we were working in the different seasons. So it depends on the place to place.
Okay. So when was your next dive when you actually saw something underwater that you felt that this could be something? Did you find it, or any of your team found anything regarding Dwaraka?
From 1988 onwards, when we started diving, then whenever we were diving, we were seeing archaeological remains and we were exposing them or documenting them, taking photographs, making drawings, taking measurements. So that was soon after our training. Once we started working on the archaeological sites, we were discovering the archaeological remains and documenting them.
How vast is that, sir? The sunken city? How vast can we assume?
See, the remains are lying scattered in a large area. So that's quite large along the shore. As I told you, there is a stream known as Gomati.
Yes.
To the north and to the south, in a vast area, there are architectural fragments which are lying scattered on the bottom. They have been documented and published by Dr. Rao also and by other scholars.
What kind of rocks were found? Can I ask, like, what were they building their ancient buildings with? Let's say their palaces, or what kind of rocks were they using?
See, what we have found there offshore is remains of stone structures. They are huge blocks, means square, or they are of different shapes and sizes. They are quite big, which suggests that the structures might have been quite thick and bigger in size. Their thickness is also quite, it's around more than 20 centimeter in certain cases. So they are the part of the buildings. And so far, we could not find in situ structure. So they are the broken part of the structures.
Okay, so you didn't find any single piece which we can identify it as like a pillar or as a foundation or anything like that?
Not in situ.
Okay. We're talking about a huge city, sir. Was it a huge city? Can we believe that it was a huge city?
As I told you, we found the structural remains. See, as an
Okay.
archaeologist, you can say anything
Okay.
only once you
By
have
the basis
these
of
ingredients.
by the basis
So,
of what you saw.
yeah. So one
Okay.
can imagine based on that what would have been.
We, as trust me, sir, as growing up, we imagined all sorts of things. We watched all sorts of movies regarding Dwaraka. So yeah. So, sir, what do you think must have happened? Like the whole city going underwater? Was it like seabed rising day by day, or is it an earthquake, or is it according to the mythology also? I think they knew. I think Krishna did warn them a week ahead, sir. Am I right?
Yeah. As per the literature, yes, he has warned and he knew that it is going to submerge. But when we talk about submergence, let me tell you, there may be several reasons for submergence.
Okay.
At places, the sea level is rising. At certain places, land level is going down. There may be tectonic activities. There may be both ways. Sea level is also rising and the land is also rising, or sea level is going down and the land is rising. So at different places, because it's a regional phenomena, you can say, that depends what is happening. Because the submergence is said to be at Dwarika, not all over the country as
Yes.
such.
Yes. Yes.
So we do not know exactly what was the cause, but there may be several reasons for submergence of any city, because we know a large number of means a number of ports which were means ancient ports which were the major ports. Some of them have gone underwater, whereas some of them are now quite inland. So the
Like
sea has reached.
Muziris, like Muziris.
There are many ancient ports. So we find that some of them have been submerged, whereas some of them are quite inside landward. It means the sea has gone back. So these changes keep taking place, and one has to study that reason particularly, and based on the geological evidence or the archaeological evidence, then you can make out what was happening there.
Okay.
So unless you do specifically on this, it's difficult to say that what exactly happened at a particular place.
Okay. Is there any similar situation like this, like Dwaraka, in any place, in anywhere else in the world, sir? Like this regional place, being sunken like that?
There are a number of cities and places which have been submerged. Alexandria, for example, I can give you one example which is well known. There was a big lighthouse, and its remains are lying under the sea.
Okay.
So that is one. At
Alexandria, where, sir?
Alexandria is a big city.
In which country?
Which was one of the seven wonders of the ancient world.
Wow. So ancient world had seven wonders too. Okay.
Yeah. So it was there. Mahabalipuram, we have remains where we find that there are submerged remains underwater, and remains of the temples, walls, etc., where the submergence has taken place. The another place is Kaveri Patnam or Pumpuhar, where some work has been done. We have submerged remains.
Okay. There is some place near Japan, sir. Have some square blocks.
All over the world, there are places.
Okay. So this is a regional event which happened. We can't exactly nail the reason how it happened. Okay. So, what are the artifacts, sir? The first initial artifacts we found that we could definitely say this is from Dwaraka, the sunken city of Dwaraka, from Lord Krishna period. What are those artifacts?
Artifacts, as I told you, we found all these artifacts and remains have been found scattered around Dwaraka. There are copper objects are there. Different copper objects are there. There are old sculptures are there. Structural remains of the buildings, which suggest that they might have been circular or semicircular structures, long straight walls. There are wooden artifacts are there. So they are of different types. Some pottery is there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they don't get errors, sir, because of the sea, because I'm sure it has been 3,000 years old. Are we talking about 3,000 years old?
See, again, if anything gets submerged and get buried, covered with the soil or sand, then it survives. If it is exposed on the surface, then definitely it is going to get eroded or destroyed. Even in case of the shipwrecks, if the ship is exposed, upper portion, it may be eaten by the wood borer, or it may get eroded, or you have a lot of incrustation of that. But if it goes down and get buried under the sand or the soil, then it remains perfectly preserved. Depend on the situation or the conditions at particular place.
Oh, that's really new point, sir. So when it is under the sand, it's more protected than being on the surface level.
If it is in anaerobic condition where you don't have a air and it get tightly packed, then it will survive as it is because it is fully protected.
Okay.
I recall when I was excavating in Mediterranean Sea, we found cloth of Roman period.
Wow.
So almost 2,000-year-old cloth survived and we could recover it.
The whole piece, sir?
Whole piece. So you may find even organic remains when they are properly buried, or you find even old ships which are thousands of years old. If they get buried, then you find everything intact. Or if they are exposed, or if there is it depends on again the nature of the bottom. They may get destroyed also. So depending upon the situation.
Okay. So what kind of impact causes them to bury like that?
Nature of the bottom. If it is a rocky bottom, it will not get buried. Or if it's a very dynamic, means the current and waves are very strong, then there will be a lot of shifting of the sediments. If it's a calm or muddy area, because of the weight, it goes down and get covered. So it depends that where the place is located. When we were diving, sometimes when the current is strong, it's very difficult to stay at one place and continue your work. So you have to carry a lot of weight with you.
Yeah.
So that depends. It keeps changing. And as you mentioned that the diving season is in the winter. So because in summer the sea become very rough. So during that time there are very high waves, and then it's a very strong, very rough sea.
Okay. So what is the how many square kilometers is considered under the Archaeological Survey of India, particularly regarding Dwaraka, sir? How many vast kilometers you would say under the sea?
When we carried out underwater excavation, prior to that in 2006, we carried out geophysical survey in that area, and we took 2 nautical mile in length and 1 nautical mile in breadth, the area which we surveyed.
So that is the area you under the which has been done when you are doing. So is it the same, sir?
That's a quite large area. So we wanted that nothing should be left out. So north to south, 2 nautical mile, and east to west, 1 nautical mile area, which we surveyed first. And we were working with Indian Navy. So we used to use their survey ship, and they have a state-of-the-art survey equipment. We used side scan sonar. These sonars are the tools, remote sensing tool, which use sound waves to find out the objects on the bottom or objects buried under the bottom.
How deep can it, sir?
It can go. It depends on the frequency of the waves. It can be changed. It depends how deep you want to search. So there are different tools having the different penetration power, and depending upon your requirement, you select them. So we used the side scan sonar, we used the echo sounder, we used multi-beam sonar. So then we had a very very thorough investigation or the survey of the entire seabed of that area. Then we prepared the bathymetric sheet, like what you have topo sheets on the ground. For the seabed, we have a bathymetric sheet.
Like you actually do a square, like covering the each by squares.
So you know the every depth and every feature on the bottom of the sea. So it was a few centimeter we could go, and so even if a object which are of a few centimeter could be measured or seen up to that detail. We also made a three-dimensional model of the area which we had surveyed, so we could see the features, and that helps you to find out where is the possibility of getting, or which area may be the more suitable for having structures or habitation or finding archaeological site.
Okay.
So that is the first step. Even on the land also, you do the survey and then you study
Yeah.
that to find out the possible area where you can find the archaeological remains.
Okay. I have two silly
So
questions here, sir. Like really silly questions. Excuse me if I'm being silly. One is how much percentage, because already you said that there is some artifacts under the sand itself and some remaining on. So how much percentage is like literally under the sand, and how much percentage would you say whatever we found until now is on the seabed? I mean, like on the bed of the.
see, what we have found so far is all from the surface or lying on the seabed. Of course, since deposit is there, you can always find remains buried under the sediment. But unless you excavate them, you can't say how much percentage.
Okay.
For on any site, you can have a guess that what kind of a structure might be there based on the surface features or the indication or remains what you are finding. But exact size, shape, and number only can be found once you excavate.
Okay.
So
by all these sonar radars, we can't say that okay, in this much is there under this square kilometers.
Let me tell you here for the benefit of the viewers that all these remote sensing tools can give you indication. They can suggest you there is something under the surface, but whether it is a man-made or natural, that only can be known once you excavate them.
Okay, it could be a rock, a general normal
It can
rock.
be anything. It can be anything because these are the waves, maybe the sound wave or electromagnetic waves or magnetic waves. They go down, they hit the object, and they come back. And because of this reflective properties, you come to know that there is something. If the shapes are very familiar, you can make out what object it could be. But otherwise, it's an object, or you can call them a target. And what it is exactly, that will only be known when an archaeologist go there and find it out.
So before getting into the serious question again, sir, the other silly question was: did we find any jewels, sir, like any valuable diamonds or emeralds or anything like that?
Not exactly. What we found was the stone or metal objects or the pottery. Not that. Because generally, when a site is abundant, see again one thing. On archaeological sites, generally you find the things which are discarded. Because when any site is deserted, people will always take away all the good things or useful, whatever they can carry. So, but the case is different in shipwrecks. When a ship sink, it goes down with everything. Because at times there is no time for people to rescue the material. So there you may find almost everything intact, which was being transported or carried on the ship. But in case of sites, people will try to remove whatever is useful, and you will find only what has been left behind,
like clay pots.
Whatever is there. Yeah.
Okay. So how much part is actually excavated, sir, in this nautical miles? How much percentage is actually excavated until now?
It's very limited, very, very limited. See, I told you, we surveyed that 2 nautical mile by 1 nautical mile. Then after our study, we selected an area of 200 meter by 200 meter for thorough exploration, where we carried out diving. And after that, we reduced it even to 50 meter by 50 meter.
Right.
So that was a small area where there were more concentration of these structures and remains. And in that area, then we laid out the trenches, because when you want, means if you are working anywhere, you have to have the proper marking of that area so that you can, draw them, or you can make your plan and relate them, each object with each other. So then we reduced this to 50 meter by 50 meter. That's the area where we carried out underwater excavations.
So how deep is
And
these parts? All these 50 by 50, how deep?
they are very close to shore, not very deep. It depends. Means average, you can say around 5 to 7 meter, because tide with the tide, this depth will change. During low tide, it may become 3 meter, and during high tide, it may become 6 meter.
Okay.
So you can add around 2 to 3 meter tide, and tide vary day to day.
Okay.
So on an average, 5 to 7 meter depth was there.
Okay. So how much population is, you would assume, regarding whatever you found, how much population must have lived in Dwarka at that period of time?
Oh, unless you study the guessing population or calculating the population will be the last thing once you study the whole settlement
Whole thing,
anywhere.
yeah, like how many houses, how many actually.
On any archaeological site, archaeologists will excavate a very small portion of that. So based on the evidence what you find, you try to imagine how the city would work, or city or village or town, whatever it is. The settlement is a better term. How the settlement would have been, and based on that you can calculate how many people would have been. But that's all depend what the evidence you are finding. As I have mentioned you, since we did not find in situ structure, then question of this kind of things doesn't arises at this point here.
Okay, got it. So are there any lifestyle products which we found, sir, like plates or glasses, or any lifestyle things?
See, it is again, as I told you, that it depends on the nature of the site, that what you are finding. And since this area is rocky and very means the current and waves are very strong, so survival of such material becomes very difficult.
Right.
So what we found are mostly these huge, heavy stone blocks or remains of the structure, which have survived there.
Okay.
So
The other copper things which you said earlier, so what are those?
yeah, there were some copper bells and some nails and other objects which have been reported by Dr. S.R. Rao.
Right.
So they were found there. So not from, because this excavation is very different from other excavations. So what you find on the land.
Yeah, it's underwater.
So yeah. So underwater excavation also you may find at places, if they have as I told you, if they have gone down and the water is calm there, bottom is muddy or it is covered, then you will get more items. If it is exposed and that region is quite dynamic and strong waves and current, things will be taken away from this place to other places.
Okay.
Because they will be floated, or they will be carried away by the strong current. So that depends. See, so many factors, means natural factors, works on a site. Okay. So you can't presume or expect everything everywhere.
Okay. Would you say this is the hardest site, sir? According to your experience, this was the hardest?
No, it was a very good site. And
it was interesting for you.
Many sites in Atlantic Ocean, which were really difficult and hard sites.
In what sense are they difficult, sir? The others?
The water was very, temperature was very low. Sometimes we had a very strong current, and a really strong current where even swimming against the current was very, very difficult. So in many other ways. So working on the sites at night diving is again a very difficult thing when you work in a dark.
Okay, so Dwaraka was not that hard then, according to you?
No, Dwaraka was not. Dwaraka was a very good site.
Okay, so with conclusion, you could say that this is the Dwaraka where Krishna lived.
We need a lot more work to be done, because whatever has been done in Dwaraka is very limited. I mentioned about the previous excavation which have been carried out on the mount. They are also limited in a very small area or a section of the mount.
So I also wanted to ask, sir, I saw in one of your printed papers, or I think some research which I was going through, the particular piece first which you wanted to excavate was the corner of the Gomati River and the seabed. Why did you choose that particular corner first to be excavated, sir?
As I mentioned, the location of the settlement which is given in ancient literature is that it was located where the river Gomti was meeting the sea. So that's the point where you may expect the settlement.
Most of the settlement.
Yeah, so that is the one. And the one of the issue is the entire mound of Dwarika, that is the old remains which are buried there. It's a thickly populated. So you don't have an open space to excavate at many places.
Yes.
So the first excavation was done very close to the temple. The second was in the forecourt. The third, which I carried out again in the forecourt. So there is not much open space. And unless we carry out excavation in different part of the mound, it will be difficult to know all about the settlement, because settlements also move from little from it may be in the earlier phase it is let's say towards southwards, and then slowly they move to northward.
Yeah.
So that happens over the time. People move from one place to another in a very close proximity. So unless you carry out excavation at different places, it is very difficult to date a place or fix its antiquity, and the work which has been done is very limited. So there is a great scope. Even when the first excavation was conducted, Dr. Sankalia has mentioned that we have gone to the 2000 back, and there is a need to go further back. So there is a scope of doing more work and then going backward, so that we could establish the antiquity of the place.
Okay. So according to the books, you said that the place was mentioned in the mythological books, right? The Gomati River, the corner of
Yeah.
the Gomati, and the so what was the place mentioned as? That the settlements they were living here, and what about the place which got sunken? So how did they mention these both places as the one
You
which
see,
is
the
now?
Mahabharata and Puran, they mention about a city, means that was the capital, which was established when Krishna left Mathura and then moved to towards the
Dwaraka.
west,
Mm-hmm.
Dwaraka, and he established Dwarika there. Then this literature mention about the city. It has a fortified town with a number of gates. They had a palaces, gardens, and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
So that description is there.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, saying something in literature and having something on ground, there maybe a different ways of saying. So one has to rely only on that. What is
Why,
what
what
material?
I'm trying to understand here is, sir, that this place, the present Gomati River and that corner which you're excavating, that place is not sunken. It's on the land, right? And the one next to it in the shore, that is the place which is the sunken Dwaraka.
See, there are. If you have seen Dwarika,
Yes, I've
the
been to
present
Dwaraka.
town,
Yeah.
yeah, present town is to the north of Gomti River.
Yes.
It's a huge mound. It's an
Yes.
ancient settlement, and the present city is located over this.
Yes.
To the west of the present town, there are in the sea, there are lying these scattered remains of these stone structures.
Okay.
So you can demarcate that here the city stops and here the other thing comes.
Okay.
Unless you study the whole area to the south of the Gomti River, to the north of the Gomti River, and to the west in the sea entire area, if you study the whole area in a proper systematic scientific way, then you will be able to say in which period, which area, what was happening. So
Okay.
that kind of a study so far has not been done.
Okay.
As I told you, the excavation on the ground have been limited to a very means in a very limited area in one part of the mound,
Okay.
and some work has been done underwater. So there is a
Okay.
scope, a lot of scope to do more
Yes.
systematic work there.
Yes. What did we find in that forecourt, sir, of the temple where the excavation happened?
Yeah, we have, there again. It suggests that right from the early historical
Did
period,
that
it
also
was.
go to 3,000 years ago? The one in the forecourt as well?
It goes to around 2000 years back, and the deposit which is found in those. And right from the very beginning, there are a number of structures. So it is very clear that this place was under occupation, very thickly populated in all even previous periods, and there have been number of settlements. So might be you exactly can't say, but possibly there might have been because of these natural calamities, cyclones, and all, certain settlements or buildings. They got destroyed and then they were reestablished. So you have very thickly populated area, whatever in the limited area excavations.
Okay, right. You were talking about the ships as well. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
so did you get to do any ships excavations too, sir?
Yeah, we carried out we excavated one shipwreck in Lakshadweep. Is off Bangaram Island. That's around 450 kilometer west of India. I mean, it's the Kerala coast, the Arabian Sea.
Okay,
There is a
west of
small
Kerala.
island,
Okay, yes.
Lakshadweep, which is a union territory. There is a small island. It is an uninhabited small island with a beautiful, huge lagoon. And on the outer reef of this island, shipwreck was found.
Of
And we
which
carried out.
century?
It's of 18th century.
Okay, not too long.
And and then we carried out excavation there.
Okay, so any jewels there or no? Not there also.
Uh, See, as it's an UNESCO Underwater Convention and the philosophy or the principles which we follow, we give more emphasis on in situ preservation. That if you find anything underwater, better to be preserved there where it is found. This ship also is known from 1990 on, and when it was discovered, we had a first diving in 1990. Then we carried out excavation in 2003. So our work was more on documentation and recording of the remains than digging up and retrieving the objects.
Oh, so you retrieve the objects or you preserve them there only, like you leave
No,
them?
we preserve them there. So we documented the objects in situ.
Okay.
We took photographs, recorded their positions, and we took only 3 small trenches there to find out the deposit.
Oh, is there
And
something which you have to do, sir, that you have to preserve where you found it?
yeah, because like any archaeological sites or the monuments, when you find them where they are, see the shipwrecks and all submerged sites, they are also a monument in a sense. They need to be preserved where they are.
Right.
And those who are interested, they may go there and can see them.
Okay.
But they should not be lifted or disturbed unless it is necessary for scientific studies or for their preservation.
I have this question for a very long time. I have to get this out of my chest. I always wondered, sir, let's take countries like India itself. We have been living from past so many centuries, right? So there will be something or the other under the earth or under our houses, or as you said, like under the mounds. So if we keep excavating to know the history, so where do people come and it's normal to people come and habitate the place again, right? So if we keep preserving the places, like I don't get that point always, sir.
No, see, it's not that every place is protected. We have a large number of monuments. Let me talk about India.
Okay.
In Indian Constitution, monuments, archaeological sites, and antiquities, they have been distributed. Subjects have been distributed. The monuments and archaeological sites and remains of national importance, they are taken care of by the central government. Rest all monuments is a state subject, so respective states take care of them.
Right.
Archaeological sites and remains are in concurrent list where state and central government both are responsible.
I understand that, sir. Where I'm coming from is that I went to Hampi when I'm in year 9.
Yeah.
So in Hampi, there is this huge lands where it has all these wells to small fallen rocky places to everything, sir. But it's just left alone like that. If it could be rehabilitated, like what are we getting out of it? We knew what happened there, and then why can't we move on and be rehabilitated with it, framing it, and then getting pictures and making it tourist places? It's a general normal question, sir. General query.
No, there are certain monuments which are preserved as they are.
Okay.
There are certain historical buildings which are put to reuse. Either they are being reused for certain purposes, or even maybe as a heritage hotels and palaces where certain activities are taking place. That depend on the nature or the kind of monument.
Okay.
So it depends. See, the basic purpose of archaeologists
Yes, sir.
or the
That's
government
my question. It has been there from long time. The basic purpose I
to
want to
preserve the monument and how best it can be preserved, that is to be seen. So
know. Okay.
if its preservation can be done through reuse, that can be done, or if it can be preserved as it is for visitors to come and see, then it is preserved in that way. There are certain museums which are in historical buildings. There are certain other activities. So it depends on the nature and how means how best you can preserve it.
Yeah. No,
And
why?
many other old
Yeah.
buildings are there with the people, means there are many old monuments are with the trust or the committees or with the local bodies, state governments, local people. So that depends. So
Right.
everything is not to be, where all restrictions are there and nobody can do anything, nothing like that.
No, I get that, sir. But when I see that vast place like Hampi, particularly, it's a very good land. You can see nice, beautiful trees and banana plantations. Once you enter Hampi, it's so beautiful. And then it's left, some places are literally left like that, stating that it's an archaeological site. Why can't it be reused? Why can't it be rehabited? That's my question. That's all.
At times you want to show that that grandeur of that old city which can be seen when you preserve it, and Hampi is inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage.
Yes.
So it is maintained as per their that plan and the norms which they have, and it's a really worth seeing, and people really can imagine that how this old city would have
It is
been if
beautiful.
you
It
see
is
as it
beautiful.
is.
Yeah.
Uh, if people are living around, then you will never be able to imagine that how
Ah,
this
no,
old.
that's a whole different situation out there. This is just me wondering, like, can we do? Is it like I just wanted to know that it's normal to that everything is preserved. So as you said, if they will be put to reuses and repurposed, which is great, which has given me the answer for that. So, do you have any information regarding this Gulf of Kambat? There is this. I heard that 5 kilometers vast city is found in Gulf of Kambat. Do you have any information regarding that?
Some scientists who were working there, they had got some geophysical indications. Based on that, they had claimed. I have not worked on that site, so I really have no information. See, as an archaeologist, I can tell you anything when we have the material evidence. So it's
Got it.
difficult for me to comment on that.
Got it. Got it. So, lastly, sir, before we finish this up, I always wondered when I am studying, like, how do one get into archaeology, sir? For the next generation kids, if you want to get into archaeology, if you are interested, I'm sure, sir, I don't know how it is right now in India, but what is the right way, sir? After what study you have to enter, and how do you enter into archaeology?
In India, to become an archaeologist, means in central government institutions or in the state government institution, one has to have a basic, that is the post graduation, either in archaeology or ancient or medieval history. Those who are from geological background with quaternary geology or certain ancient languages like Sanskrit, Pali, Prakrit, Arabic, they may also join as an archaeologist. Then you have different branches in archaeology. There are archaeological chemists. So those who are having chemistry background or can be helpful in conservation of archaeological monuments and objects. Those who are botany or horticulture background, they can join the horticulture branch. We have prehistory branch where the geologist can be helpful. Then you have epigraphy, which is a discipline studying and deciphering the ancient inscriptions. So the persons from different languages, maybe even we have a huge number of Tamil inscription, we have Kannada inscription, Telugu, Malayalam, Gujarati, Marathi. So all those who are from these different backgrounds may be useful and helpful in deciphering the inscription. Those who are coming from art and architecture background, so the art history background people can be helpful in
So,
studying the
minimum
art,
you need is a
sculptures.
PG. You should be a postgraduate. That's
That
what
is a
you are.
post-graduate. Yeah, that is a
Okay,
minimum
so
qualification.
once you are a postgraduate, let's say, for example, in one of the languages, let's say in art and archaeology, the next step is to come and apply, or is there anything else they need to do?
Yeah, the posts are advertised and one has to apply for that. There are the tests and those who qualify, they get the job. Then museums are there. Some with the museology background, they can work in museums.
Okay.
Then the universities have departments of archaeology, history, museology, art history. So people can
Let's say if you
work
want
there.
to do the excavation work, particularly, someone is very interested.
Yeah, universities also carry out. Universities also do the excavation. State departments also do the excavation.
No. What kind of
Archaeology
study you must have done to do the excavations?
generally the archaeology or
Okay.
ancient history that
Right.
helps.
So how does archaeology enter a site? Let's say if you want to say that this is a site, we need to start excavating here. How is it based on, sir? Will you get a tip saying that there is something found here, or how do you define that? Okay, this is an archaeological site. We start excavating here, or this is our place.
See, there are hundreds of thousands of archaeological sites. So
okay, how did you find them initially?
They are explored, means there are people who explore the archaeological sites and remains, and chance discoveries are also there, and many sites are known. So every archaeological site need not to be excavated. It depends on the what problem you have. If you have some issue which you want to address, then you have to select that where you can excavate and you can find the evidence. What you really want to know, it depends on that. For example, the chronology we know now, based on this number of excavation conducted so far, we know the chronology very well, or pretty sure. Now, if there is any specific issue which has to be addressed, depending upon that, one has to select a site, and then there is a process. One has to apply. Then if the permission is granted based on his experience and expertise and resources, then if he is capable of doing that, then he can take up the work, can conduct excavation. Then he has to analyze all the material, and based on that interpretation, he has to produce a technical report. That is the final outcome of any excavation, through which people come to know that what exactly the site contains and what are the outcome of that site. Okay. So it's a very slow and a scientific process which one has to follow.
Amazing, or like something you were not able to believe, the site that you heard of or you saw, the best archaeological sites are like, okay, this is like, okay, some works will give you the challenge, right? It should not be easy. That challenge, the most challengeable you heard or you've done, sir.
Every site has the same challenge, and you have to follow almost the same thing there. And every evidence what you find is of equal importance as an archaeologist, because every antiquity is evaluable. So it may be a small potsherd, or it may be a gem.
Will you be happy, sir? That day, let's say a day you find an artifact, it makes you happy as an archaeologist?
No, see, that is generally, it is not that artifacts or number of artifacts which make you get something which generate the information which is not known.
No, so let's say in your regular day, in your archaeological life, if this happens, that any archaeologist, he'll be happy. He'll be the happiest that day. What is it that you see and you get that smile on your face?
So generally, it is the antiquities which people feel happy that if they found a gold coin, or if somebody has found a
like I was asking for jewels.
or some inscription or some sculpture, but that is fine. But ultimately, its importance of any antiquity depend on what new knowledge it is going to add. What is already known, if you get something which gives you some information which was not known so far. So material, nature, size doesn't matter. It is that the information what you get. So when you excavate any site, and if you get the information which was not known, and if you can add something to history, that is what is the satisfying factor in archaeology.
Right. Are you satisfied with the Dwaraka excavations, feeling that, okay, this is the Dwaraka, this is the lost sunken Dwaraka? Little bit. Don't tell me you didn't have the evidence, sir. As per you, I'm satisfied little bit that this is the Krishna's Dwaraka. This was.
If I say as on date, it is Krishna's Dwaraka, but there is a lot more to be done.
Finally, you didn't use the word evidence.
No, because see, whatever you are doing based on the few evidence. And see, I tell you, unless there are certain cases where you get inscribed seals or something which tells about a place. If you are just talking about a place and its identification. So if you get some contemporary literary evidence, means inscriptional evidence or something, which proves everything beyond doubt that yes, this place was
Then you
known by
can
this
say,
name in
okay.
this period. So then it is totally, and you need not to say anything; it speaks itself. Otherwise, unless you have such kind of evidence, you need more evidence which are convincing of contemporary period. Then you can say to that.
Okay. So
So
for now,
works
we can
done
say
so
that it's
far
convincing. It's just convincing.
convincing, yeah. And the works done so far are very limited, and you do not have that kind of evidence which proves everything. See, there are always, if you find any evidence or an object, it is open to interpretation. People may interpret in a different way. So it depends on how the people look at it, how they interpret it. So you can't say anything conclusively in archaeology. I generally tell in my class to my students, archaeology start with A and it ends on Y. There is no Z. The term word archaeology start from A
Oh,
and end in Y. There is no Z. So there is
okay.
always a scope for something more.
Right. So there is no ending. That's what you
There is
mean.
no ending. Yeah.
Right. Wow. That's a nice way to put it, sir. Yeah,
So
that's
there is
nice.
always scope, there is always hope for more evidence, better interpretation, better scientific analysis, and getting more information.
Okay. What do you say to people, sir, who don't believe in this and they're like, there's nothing there. It's not the Dwaraka. It's all, what do you say
So,
to
see,
them?
I would say there are two things. One is a belief, which does not require any evidence, and the another one is the material evidence. And I do believe that these places and events which are mentioned in ancient literature that did take place. Now, the scale of those events or the location of those certain places, they, unless proved, supported by the material evidence,
More
people
concrete
will
evidence,
keep,
you'd say the
yeah,
inscriptions
people
and
will keep questioning and having doubts. But I strongly believe, yes, those events took place, and we have to find the material evidence of that so that we can correlate it with the whatever is mentioned in literature, and so that it can be convinced to others
okay. Hopefully that day
that
will come,
yes,
sir.
it did take place.
Yeah, hopefully that day will come and then, we'll have more evidence that we can prove that it is. Thank you so much for coming on to the show, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Namaste,
Namaskar.
sir. Namaste.